Our next speaker is somebody who I first met actually when I was working and running Level 39 in London's Canary Wharf, a big fintech center we built. And at the time, he was working for UBS. He was the CIO of UBS with a huge budget running into the billions, helping keep that bank on track. And as I met him and heard his thoughts, I realized he was out in front. I mean, this is definitely a man that is leading the charge towards everything that this industry cares about. We did some amazing things together. He's gone on to, in fact, to be president of the Crypto Valley Association, helping build the ecosystem here. And today he's going to talk about how ICOs morph into IPO. But, a fun fact, his name is Oliver Bussmann, and did you know that he cycles 5,000 kilometers a year? He is a complete cycling geek. He is wearing the yellow jersey of this industry for us. Please welcome, I like that, Oliver Bussmann.
All right, thank you so much. Welcome to the afternoon session. It's great to see a full house. Now I want to share with you my experiences since I left UBS, setting up with my team our own advisory business on the enterprise banks and high-tech firms around the blockchain technology and helping startups to find the right niche, the right product and solution, and help them also to get the right amount of funding. And being through this the last 18 months on the ICO side, I think the whole industry is getting professionalized. And I want to walk you through the next 15 minutes, and hopefully we have time for your questions, if you can go to the next page, because I think it's not. Yeah, okay, fine. I want to walk you through that. I think this trend is continued, that we will see the whole ICO business getting more professionalized, and best practice out of other industries, especially around the IPO business, is already being leveraged. And I believe that this catalyst to get access to risk capital, and this is the reason why Crypto Valley is so successful, to get access to a global capital market of funding, is bringing up more and more new solution, blockchain solution, not only for disrupting the existing business. I see new ecosystem coming up in the enterprise business, leveraging startups out of the Crypto Valley to generate growth opportunities. I see trends that it's important if you run an ICO or prepare for that, that's important to understand, like an IPO business, what's going on in the market from a volume trend. You see new players, new investors coming in, and what their role will be going forward. You see regulation, especially now with FINMA the last few weeks announcing their token framework, that the regulation is getting more tightened, more clear. There's a change from a token perspective. There will be a different market infrastructure built up, I believe. And at the end, best practice out of the IPO business is already being applied to do an end-to-end orchestration of ICOs. Because there's a shift, there are different investors of different phases that I want to walk you through. At the end, my belief is, like also here, we're going through new kinds of hybrid model in doing business, and the ICO one is one of them already applying that. So if you look at the catalyst, there's a reason why we have over 200 startups in Crypto Valley is access to risk capital that we in Switzerland didn't have before. Open up the democrats' access to over 5 billion last year, outperformed the equity funding. And this trend is continuing. That has an impact, I will talk later, on the venture capital business. So it's a new way to get access to fund your business. It means also that the technology that I can see coming out of the valley is not only disrupting existing business. In financial services, it's global payment, around about 50 to 60 billion. Efficiency gains will come out of that, trade finance, etc. But I think the important learning for me the last 12 months is it's not an efficiency play only. If you're in a B2B business, it's open up new ecosystems that today, usually, they could not work together. So there's a prediction that 12 new ecosystems will evolve in the next 8 years, 8 to 10 years. Ecosystem in the mobility space, in housing, that industry players, usually from a vertical point of view, are not working together. And at the end, blockchain in a very simple way is the glue between those verticals. So business processes that are not digital today in those new ecosystems are now getting digitalized, and new services are being presented and available. And it's real. One of the startups that I see is out of the valley is Leon Digital. They announced with Mercedes-Benz a new operating system. Because the car industry will be disrupted, and the biggest risk is by Google, for example, aggregating services that if you want to travel from Zurich to Hamburg, you could book this in one step. And there's a belief that companies like Mercedes want to team up with other players and use the blockchain as the glue modeling to do those business processes with other companies. And that's happening now in the mobility space, which is a big business. And we have to think about blockchain as workflow, enabling execution, storing information off-chain or in different ledgers. And Deon allows us to store information in R3, Ethereum, or Hyperledger. So from my perspective, this is the future. You have to think about, in the business, how to bring different players together as a new ecosystem. It means from my perspective, that new revenue opportunities are coming up that are significant. Another example that I want to go you through is the B2B ecosystem supply chain. Supply chain is not anymore an isolated vertical. It will be integrated into invoicing, insurance business, etc., as a new service. If you look at the typical hardware business of SkySat, they have over 1,000 containers to deliver pharmaceutical from one location to the other in a cooled condition. They have an installation without power supply needed to do that. So now, instead of 200 documents tracked in a central way, there's a decentralized model to manage all the information with invoicing, with insurance, etc., on the ledger through smart contracts. So again, also here, leveraging the Deon Digital platform here to connect other services. So we have to think about how we can expand our current business and make money out of that service, moving away from just only hardware. So it means, at the end, we have to keep an eye, if you want to go prepare for fundraising, in which market environment we are in. And being through this the last few months, watching how the sentiments are looking at the environment, it's almost like comparable with the IPO environment. Is the market ready for your investments, for your startup? And right now, you see the volumes of IPOs, ICOs are still high, higher than the level in November, but the volume through looking at the crypto market is down. And I see a lot of more projects coming up. So thinking about timing when you will go to market, when are supporting facts out there is important to organize your ICO going forward. It means also that the available investors also are going through a major change. In the past, it was much more on the public side. Now, with the crypto investors, the hedge funds over 100, 120 and more now investing, and also new roles of the venture capital firms are providing funding to organize your token or your ICO preparation. So the whole industry, who's available from a funding perspective in the different global markets, it's an effort. As an effort to organize your ICO has much more impact on timing, effort to build those networks going forward. It means also you have to keep in mind to look at the regulation pieces. Because one of the key discussion points of your ICO process is, what is the token that you want to issue, what are the economics, etc. And with the token framework from FINMA very clearly defining what is a utility token or not, there and the shift from utility token to security/asset token, knowing that the market infrastructure is not available for security token, that means exchanges, etc., that you need from a liquidity point of view, finding the right spot, and again, it's a business model discussion and a legal discussion between the utility and the asset token for the time being, that's important discussion that you need. And there's several examples in the crypto valley that shows that this is doable. At the end, it's almost for me a déjà vu coming out of banking is you apply the best practices out of IPO to do an end-to-end orchestration of your ICO. Starting from what's your value proposition, what's your business model, because that has an implication on how you define your token. The token economics also has an impact on how you want to get the non-action letter from FINMA, so the legal regulatory requirements is another point. Out of the discussion, you feed into the whole marketing PR messaging. And related is a lot of ICOs and startups are missing is getting tax and accounting ruling is important because depending on the token, you have a different tax implication. So at the end, you then prepare everything for the launch from an audit perspective, smart contract development, and then as FINMA always says, you need the right AML, KYC, your client setup to make sure that you are safe from an investor onboarding perspective. So what I'm saying to you, this is not a white paper exercise anymore. This is a program end-to-end that your business has to go through, and it needs service provider that Crypto Valley, the Valley has, from my perspective, and to be successful to organize that, knowing what's the right timing from my perspective. So at the end, it's an important message also, over 80% of the funding is now coming through institutional investors. And that's another confirmation for me that we're talking about more and more IPO-like businesses. The time that you spend to set up the private sale, supported by your PR and communication effort. Then, if you have the momentum, leveraging your existing funding already, or raise funding for your pre-sales, with the roadshows, etc., the level of attention will go up if you are prepared and if you're doing this in an organized way. At the end, the critical success factors that I've been through the last few months is it's all about the investor story. Is it attracting the crypto community? Is it attracting also the enterprise business for future customers, etc.? How your marketing and PR story is being spreaded. At the end, you build a global brand that doesn't exist in most of the cases. And the systematic reach out to your investor community is an IPO-like approach. That means you go through the different hubs, regional hubs, and try to get into those networks. At the end, which also drives the success of your business is to get listed access to your liquidity through exchanges. And that's the relevant dependency to your token definition. So overall, I would say it's a fascinating journey that we've been through, and this will continue. Because at the end, if you see the volume of ICOs, the strategic players coming in, and then also utilizing your communities is important for your success. I've been through this the last 18 months, and I believe there's much more to come. So I think, Eric, we have still time for questions?
Oh, definitely. You're not getting away with that without us being able to ask you some questions. I have a couple, but actually I'm going to pass it open to the audience because, oh my God, look at that. What a full house. This is fantastic. One of you must have the burning question. I know what's on my mind. It's about regulators. I always think about regulators. Don't we? Don't we all? Do we go to sleep thinking about regulators? Oliver, that's the question for me.
Yeah.
You're pioneering this here, and government officials like Schneider Arment have come out and said this is
Yeah.
not just Crypto Valley, this is
Yeah.
Crypto Nation. How much of the Swiss government do you think is behind that, or is it a spearhead that you hope will grow?
No, I think the government is behind that because we had a long discussion with FINMA about the token framework already in early February, and for them it's important. They know that this gives access to venture capital that didn't exist before. Number one. Number two is the whole token framework aims for sustainable business. Sustainable business means they want to see business moving into Switzerland. It's not only for capital raising. So they want to see jobs, operations being set up in Switzerland. Number three is to protect investors because they believe this whole ICO business will move into more an IPO territory and give the investors the right protection to make the right investment decision, which then also, FINMA was very clear to me that there's a strong belief that the exchange market, brokers, hybrid models will come up to support, because with the utility token definition, the security token. So there is a change for market infrastructure, but there's a strong belief this is essential for a country like Switzerland with limited access in the past to venture capital.
As one of the speakers at a conference recently said, Switzerland is fortunate with 26 cantons, 26 governments. It has 26 chances to get it right, as opposed to some of its neighbors. So we certainly look forward to that. Any final questions for Oliver Bussmann in this amazingly crowded room? There are a couple of seats over here. Any other questions? There's one over there. Please say who you are and then state your question.
For the Kicksters app, I have a question regarding your number of the more than 80% is being picked up by institutional in pre-sale. And where did you get this number from? Because it's counterintuitive.
No, I got this through a web publication. Happy to share this with you. But that's also my observation, because usually 20% to 30% in the last few months are raised through public ICOs. The rest is more on the institutional side. That's my personal experiences. And I'm happy to share the statics. I don't have that at my hand right now. Yeah. But again, for me, that's a big change.
Okay, I'm going to run down the middle just because it's Oliver Bussmann. You've got to ask him. He knows stuff.
Hi, Sophia. I have a question for the same number.
Yeah.
So what makes me think is, so now what's the difference between ICO and traditional venture capital funding anymore?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I think the big difference to the venture capital, this is the reason why I see startups now or companies with successful raised Series A or B funding moving away from that funding model to this funding model, because first of all, the possibility to get a much higher volume of funding is possible. Second, the discussion is moving away from share class influence, etc., into having access to capital without restriction. Third, for venture capital or investors, very interesting is the liquidity of the token, the share, which is not happening right now in Series A, B, or C. And those are the arguments which I think we see more and more investors and startups try to embrace this in a, again, professional way, in a regulated environment, because they have to lose also their brand, the value already established.
One more here.
Yeah.
Hi, Jane. What's the optimal time period between 1 and 5?
1 and 5. So based on our experience, between 1 and 5 right now, not below 4 months. Because the investor roadshows can take 2 months, 3 months, etc. Plus the FINMA non-action letter, based on my observation and experiences, it's a 2 months to 3 months exercise. So you have a regulation dependency, you have dependency how much you want to raise through the institutional network, or you just rely on the market, which is down right now. And so that has an impact on timing, length of that whole thing, and when you want to announce your public sale, because it should be 60, 70% should be raised or coming to that point.
Okay, wasn't supposed to be any more, but it looks like an amazing questioning face there. So please say who you are and then say your question.
Hi, my name is Amir. I wanted to ask you, what is your definition for the institutional investors?
No, institutional investors that are certified investors that are able to invest in those kind of non-regulated securities.
Okay, I'm afraid...
So like VCs, hedge funds, etc., investment manager that provide this fund.
And actually we're going to hear from the VC panel after the break. That's right. Please put your hands together and give a big thank you for Oliver Bussmann. Thank you, Oliver.